At the time we first started doing our books, we were doing them on paper with typewriters like everybody else did at that time. This was pre-computers. But we actually got into computers very early on. Our first computer was, I look at it now as a sort of Stone Age device, and we got it for doing accounting. Jim, who was our computer expert, I guess, said to me, "Tony, you could use this thing for writing. It's something called word processing." And I said, "What's that?" And I sat down, and within 10 minutes, I thought, this is fantastic. This is much better than using a typewriter. And that was our first experience of writing something for a guidebook on a computer. And we moved on from that a year or two later to thinking, well, could we do our maps with a computer? And of course, there was no mapping programming at that time. And we actually adapted AutoCAD to drawing maps. I think we did a number of things in the early days that were fairly pioneering with our use of computer technology. But of course, now everybody's using them. And I think it's a question of how cleverly you use them that really puts you ahead of the field. These days, Lonely Planet is far more than just printed books. We've had a website since 1994, and I think 94 was pretty early on to do something on the web. One of our milestones that I really enjoy looking back on and thinking how it was clever and pioneering at the time. We did a trip, Maureen and I and our two kids, across the US in 1994 in a vintage Cadillac. We also took along a laptop computer, and we sent back to a pioneering internet site in California, a daily blog. And the word blog wasn't invented for another 10 years, but looking back now, what we did was a daily blog. I'm kind of proud that we did that back in 1994. We're also providing information these days for wireless devices. We're working with mobile phone, cell phone companies to provide travel information on their phones. And I think that's another thing that's going to grow and grow, particularly for phrasebooks. Phrasebooks are wonderful things to have on a phone. I think if you're going to be doing anything competitively in our digital world, you just have to constantly keep up with what's happening and what's changing and be ready to do new things.